Anyways, I just bring this whole series to a close. We started off in week 1 with Isaiah chapter 6, where we learned that there is a holy God, and it is not you, and it is not me. And then in week 2, we learned that God is not playing checkers. He's playing chess, and chess at a different level. That the world is not spiraling out of control, but God is in control. And today, we learn that his Son is God, the only one worthy to open the scroll. And by the way, if you ever wondered if the FBI got to open that phone, yes, they did. They found a third party that was able to hack that iPhone, and they opened it. They were able to open it and unlock it. And then Apple came to them and said, could you tell us how you got in? So that we can, show up our firmware and whatnot. And the FBI kindly said, no, we're not going to tell you. But I just now want to address the so what. The so what of this whole series, all 3 series. God is holy. So what? Well, what is to be our practical response to the fact that God is holy? And God himself doesn't leave us in the dark. Listen to what he says in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 1 and 2. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the entire assembly of the Israelites and say to them, be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy. And in case you're thinking that is just an Old Testament thing, it is repeated again in the New Testament. In 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 14 to 16. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy, for I am holy. So the whole point of the whole series, when we want to practically put it into action in our daily lives, is be holy, for God is holy. And what is holy is being separate, is being different. So be different, for God is different. Let me ask you, in your everyday life, do people see the difference in your lives? In how you handle your money, how you spend your time, how you behave? Do they see a difference? Or are you the same as everybody else? Like if you were to tell the people you work with, the people you live with, the people you go to school with that you are a Christian, will they believe you? Or is there no difference in how you live your life? Like they will get the ethics from Netflix. Is that where you're getting your ethics too? Or are you different? And I'm talking about good different here. I'm not talking about bad different. There's bad different where, there's some Christians who say, I'm not going to celebrate Christmas with my family or I'm not going to go to a christening, or maybe Christians that are always talking about Christ. It is a good thing to talk about Christ, but not every single word that you say. Imagine, I love Arsenal, and I speak about Arsenal a lot. But imagine if I spoke about Arsenal all the time. One person actually came up to me after preaching. It's like, why are you always talking about Arsenal? That's not a good difference. So I told myself I would not bring up Arsenal, but then it just happened again. I'm sorry. But are you different? Are you different? You've got to be different because the God whom you worship is different. I'm going to show you a logo here. Do you know what company that is? Apple, of course. Them guys that didn't want to open the iPhone. Yeah, Apple. So what words come to mind when you think of Apple? You just shout out a couple words. Expensive. iPhone. Rich. Niche. Any more? The voice. Yeah. So loads of things, right? Loads of things are coming up. Innovative, expensive, premium, trend-setting, the best, cool, right? People would say that. But I'll tell you the word that I would use to identify Apple, and I think they will agree as well. It is the word different. And I'll tell you a story. Back in the 90s, Apple was in a bad way. Some were actually predicting that they were going to go the way of the dodo. They were not doing very well. And at that point, they looked to their co-founder, Steve Jobs, to come back. They had fired him in 1985. But now they were in trouble, so they go to Steve Jobs for his help because they didn't want to go the way of the dodo. They didn't want to be like a Blockbuster. Do you guys remember Blockbuster? Extravision? Companies come and go. That is the law of the jungle. That's the law of the market. And Apple in the 90s was headed that way. That's what they were saying. So Steve Jobs came in. And remember, this is before iPhone, iMac, iPod, anything. There hadn't been any eyes at this point. So they were in trouble. So Steve Jobs came in, and he helped them bring up these new products. But before these new products came in, he wanted an ad campaign, much like the L'Oreal, because you're worth it, right? He wanted an ad campaign to go along the new products that he was going to bring. And he brought this ad that just said, think different. I'm sorry, that's a really bad slide, but he essentially said, think different. And then he had all these geniuses from history. So people like Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Emilia Hart. He had all these people whom people said they were different. They were the crazy ones. And now we're saying Apple is different. And now when people look at Apple, they see this different, cool brand. That makes it similar phones like other phones, but people see it as different. So as a Christian, I want to encourage you to think and be different, because the God whom you worship is different.